and welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. My name is Jess, and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today. And if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend, because it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going.
Thanks, Jess, for that introduction. The topic of today's EcoCast is best practices for maximizing data security. It's hard to think of a more relevant or appropriate topic for today's IT environments, as there's more data out there than ever and more ways to attack it too. I want to start by saying a big thank you to the audience for joining us. Today you'll be hearing from experts at ID Agent, Census, and Rubrik, who'll be showing you how to be safe in this new world. I'm Keith Ward, I'm your host for this event, and I'm proud to be part of a team that includes Jess Steinbach, who you've already met, along with Scott Becker and David Davis. On today's EcoCast, in addition to the best question prizes that Jess mentioned, we're giving away 3 $300 Amazon gift cards. And remember that you do need to be present during the entire event to win. All right. With that out of the way, let's get going. I'm excited to provide some context for today's event by having a discussion about data security with noted expert Larry Seltzer. Larry will be joining me in just a moment, and we will get started.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. With me is Larry Seltzer. Now, Larry is a journalist, a writer, a CISSP, and an all-around good guy. We are really happy to have him here with us today, talking about just a topic that everyone is concerned about. Larry, there is data everywhere. It's a cliche, but it's also true. And there's so much more than there used to be 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even a year ago. There's so much more being created. That also creates a need for more data security. So how is data security evolving, and how have things like the public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and Internet of Things, edge computing, how have they changed the way we need to secure data these days?
Okay, well, like when you say evolution especially, I think of how data is moving rapidly and in great volume to the edge, partly for the reasons you cite. It's like IoT, and also just because public clouds make it easier to do. And the edge is everywhere. The device on which you're watching this is an edge device. So is the delivery truck at the curb. So is the thermostat in the hallway, and millions of cheap sensors all over warehouses and stuff like that. All these devices and the connections to them need to be protected against attack. They're all potential openings for attackers to gain entry to your network and to your data. You can and should have a consistent set of standards for protecting all these resources, but applying them could be a lot of work because many of the resources will be on different clouds or hosted by outside service providers. Someone needs to be paying attention to all of these connections. They should all, for instance, feed into your SIEM, which is the SIEM, or Security Information and Event Management System. And what standards should you have? This is where zero trust shows up in the real world. Any entity attempting to access that resource should have to authenticate using credentials that are authorized for that access. You should limit the access rights to users who really need them, and use the strongest authentication you can, including multi-factor where possible. But actually, back to answering the question, how things have changed that we need to protect data. The answer is that data is spread out geographically on multiple clouds and multiple services, and you still have to protect it all. Many devices, by the way, like IoT devices, will lack spare CPU power or even a full network stack. So you can't protect them with software on the device. You need to protect them in other ways. For instance, well, everything should be using TLS to encrypt communications. You should segment these devices away from the rest of the network as much as possible and make sure to understand all your options about this when you're investigating outside providers for IoT.
Absolutely. Now, all of that data, all of those different locations, brings up a really important point that I think many, if not most organizations, might not have fully considered, and that is, do they even know where all of this data is? I mean, it could be everywhere. Do they know what forms it takes? Do they know where on the edge it is? Do they know where it's coming from? And all of that, what database is it going into? This, to me, brings up the importance of a comprehensive data inventory, doesn't it?
Yeah, I doubt most organizations have a complete data inventory. It's one of those things you should aspire to, but not be surprised when you find gaps in it. Building a complete data inventory for an organization of any real size is a complex and time-consuming process. It's expensive in and of itself. Now, you should make an inventory like this, but be in no doubt that it's a major effort. And if you look at the guidelines for creating one, you'll see almost all parts of the company have to be involved. The CDO or Chief Data Officer, if you have one, should coordinate it all. And if you don't have one and you want to create a complete comprehensive data inventory, you probably should hire a CDO. Potentially controversial decisions will have to be made, especially around data stewardship and access policies. And it makes no sense whatsoever to make a comprehensive data inventory if you don't also plan and allocate ongoing resources to maintain it. It's always going to be work.
Is it almost a fool's errand, Larry? I mean, can you actually, in reality, know where all your data is, or is just the very fact that you are aiming for it as a goal, is that the best you can do, do you think?
Well, the more of it you do, the better off you are. Like, here's some of the advantages. Like, you get much better compliance and risk management. You can have much more confidence in the reporting that you do and in your ability to identify risks. And this is where the security angle is. Of course, you should protect all your data, but there's always some prioritization of resources. And a good inventory lets you focus resources on the most important and sensitive data. You also get better decision making. You know what data you have, and you know where you need to go to get it and to make the best decisions. And you definitely get better data management. Complete data inventory gives you an understanding of what data your enterprise has, where it's located, how it's being used. This will probably inspire ideas for more efficient management of that data. Maybe it's being hosted on-prem, but it'd be better utilized in a public cloud with data centers closer to users. Analysis like this becomes much more credible when you have a good data inventory.
Absolutely. All right. Final question today, Larry. A company comes to you and wants your advice. You've been brought in as a consultant. But the catch is you can only give them one piece of advice on securing their data. So the top thing, the numero uno piece of advice that you could give a company for securing their data, what would that be?
Well, that's easy. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, and FIDO2, if you can. It's still incredibly common to read about successful attacks that would have been thwarted by MFA. Even weak forms of MFA, like the text message to your cell phone or an email message, those still greatly increase the amount of work an attacker has to do to succeed. FIDO2, it's a standard generally for the physical cryptographic keys, and it's the strongest form of authentication generally available. It's not impossible to compromise an account that's protected by it, but you'd have to have a very high value target for an attacker to even try, and they'd probably fail.
Absolutely. All right. Well, there it is. One piece of advice, and I thought it might be a hard question, but it wasn't. It's multi-factor authentication for the win. Larry Seltzer, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure talking to you about data security.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay. Great conversation with Larry as always. He knows his stuff, and I think you'll agree with me that he is wonderful at explaining it. So now it's time for a quick poll. We always want to kind of know what you're up to, and so in this poll, we want to know the following. What is your time frame for adding new solutions or updating existing IT solutions at your company? Are you in the midst of it? Are you in the planning stages? If you are in the planning stages, how far along? Are you still, looking at everything and you haven't even really begun to plan in earnest yet? So let us know how you're coming along. We are really interested. This kind of feedback is extremely valuable for us to kind of take the pulse of where you are right now. Okay. Hopefully you're still answering. Got a few more seconds here, and it is now time for the main event here. I'd like to welcome Miles Walker and Latika Verma from ID Agent. It is great to have you here today, folks, and you have the floor. Take it away.
Thanks so much for that. I love getting introduced as the main event. That's amazing. I'm actually coming live and direct from Las Vegas, where I'm at our big conference, and we have our main event speaker coming up in about 3 hours. So we have George Costanza, a.k.a. Jason Alexander, speaking. So I love to get that introduction there. Latika is going to be jumping on in a second, but let's get underway. We've got a lot to cover here, and I've only got about 10 minutes, so let's dive right in. So we're here to talk about transforming employees into your biggest defense asset. And when I say defense, lots of people think of employees as our biggest risk, and we like to flip that on its head and say, let's turn them into our biggest asset. And how do we do that? I'm going to give you some numbers to start off, and we can go from there. But this one's probably the biggest number that I'm going to throw out at you, which is 90%. So human-related causes are responsible for 90% of all cybersecurity breaches. So you can have the best cybersecurity solutions on earth, for your business, but at the end of the day, if humans aren't trained and know what they're doing, there's going to be breaches. And that's something that everyone really has to look at for every business these days. Another one, if you do have a phone and you're listening along, do take it out because you're going to be taking a couple pictures here. But this is pretty unbelievable. 1 in 3 employees are likely to click the links for a phishing email, and 1 in 8 are likely to share personal info. This is from all the research we've done. And every time I get these new updated numbers through each year, I get more worried. And that's why I'm glad that we're in a position like we are to have such a great solution. Once again this year, the cost of a data breach has gone up. Since the start of the pandemic, it was under about $2 million. And now we're up to almost $5 million, which is the average cost of a data breach. Really scary. I know we're seeing attacks all the time. And this was actually the first year, or 2022 was the first year, where cyber attacks were hitting small and medium-sized businesses more than large-scale, more enterprise. And that really scared a lot of people because now these cyber criminals realize the low-hanging fruit is there, and that's who they want to attack. I'm also going to throw in the chat, if you can see it. I know you can't see me on the screen, but I've added my LinkedIn there. I post a lot of content, which any of you can repurpose. You can share with your coworkers, your colleagues, with your CTO and with your team. Would love to add you up on there. I usually post 1 to 2 videos a week. That is content for everybody. All right, let's move along. So another one, if you do have your phone here, do grab it because this one is something that we all need to be going over with our employees. Employees are more likely to make errors if, and I will dive through these. They don't know what a threat looks like. That's why security awareness training is so key. They experience undue stress. When workers are stressed out, they tend to make mistakes. We all know that. And that is the same thing when it comes to cyber risk. They don't feel confident judging a threat. That's where cybersecurity awareness training comes in. We need to get employees seeing what phishing emails look like, seeing what these attacking emails look like, and moving and going from there. Obviously, a lot of people are still afraid of technology. Technology runs our world these days. I'm always baffled when I see this one, but it's something that is so true. This has to be done from the very start. So a new hire gets onboarded. They have to do security awareness training. They have to realize what their threat vectors are and realize that they're part of the problem and hopefully part of the solution. They fear job loss or demotion if they make mistakes. That's something that often happens, but we need to get people trained up and working. I could go through all these, but take a photo because I've only got about 10 minutes and I've got a lot to dive into. Anytime I can show one of my favorite movies, Office Space, I got to do it. And what I'm getting at is doing security awareness training and phishing simulations is no longer optional. It would be so interesting to hear in the chat if there's anyone who doesn't do these, but before the pandemic or even 5 or 6 years ago, small and medium-sized businesses weren't actually doing a lot of security awareness training. Now, it seems like a hot topic, and I would love this to be up to 100%. It's not going to ever get there. Still, a lot of small businesses don't see the validity in this, but this is something that's happening more and more, and we like to obviously throw our hat in the mix. So why employees do security awareness training, or why is it essential? Well, the big one, on the far left, you can see 70%. So we can reduce risks of experiencing a cyber attack by up to 70%. I could tell you stories all day about schools getting attacked, about hospitals getting attacked, about small and medium-sized businesses getting attacked. Recently, my property manager's company got attacked, and there was a $5 million ransom that they were given. And they had 2 weeks of complete chaos at the business. And they're a small company. I had a friend's CrossFit gym recently get hit by a cyber attack. And the cyber attackers asked for $10,000, which I thought to be very, very low. But they realized that they're going after the low-hanging fruit. So obviously reducing that risk can really help. Satisfying cyber insurance and compliance requirements, this is going to be something that becomes mandatory. So if you don't have security awareness training, you probably won't be able to get cyber insurance these days. 1 year of training will reduce the number of employees fooled by phishing by 90%, another big one. But I've got a lot to cover, so let's keep going. So here I'm talking today about Bullfish ID, which is part of the ID Agent platform. So you need to choose a security awareness training and phishing simulator that's right for you. And that's why I obviously love to talk about what we're doing. So we do have campaigns that are about all different types of businesses you probably use. So maybe American Express, maybe Amazon, maybe it's through Google. And right now, about a quarter of all business emails from companies like, FedEx or DHL are actually spoofed. So these cyber criminals are hitting us. They're hitting us hard, and they're hitting everyone. It doesn't matter if you're the CTO, if you're the office manager, you're going to be getting these phishing emails, and you have to be prepared. And when I say we're more than just anti-phishing training, we do really offer a one-stop shop for everything, and that's super important because just having phishing emails is one thing, but you really need to have engaging training content so that your employees can actually get smarter and help. It's past the time of, just the IT department can look after things. Every person is a cog in this wheel to make sure that your cybersecurity platform is looked after. We can customize, and that's a big thing. So when we're actually doing our phishing campaigns, you can actually put in some customization as well as training customization. A lot of companies don't do that, and that's something that really sets us apart. Easy campaign management. This is something that if you're bringing on a new solution, you have to be able to take those answers and bring them to your team and actually make sure that what's being reported is getting acted upon. And that's why easy campaign management is so key when you're adding a new solution like ours. Reporting. This is something that everybody wants to talk about, it seems, these days, but you need to have great, easy-to-read reporting so you know how many people have actually done the phishing campaigns, how many people have done security awareness training. So you can go back to those employees and say, listen, we need you to help out here, and we notice that you haven't actually gone through and actually done these campaigns. The graphics at the top give a quick, easy-to-understand snapshot of the campaign results, and this is something key to the business. We need it to be clean. We need it to be clear. We need it to be easy to use for those teams. So some security awareness training best practices right here. Once again, take out a photo, take a picture, and that's training on a regular, ongoing basis. We say aim for a monthly training cadence. Usually the most popular is once a month. Sometimes people do twice a month, but it has to be everyone. It's not just the CEO. It's not just the intern. It is everyone. Even contractors have to be pushed into this as well. All righty. I'm going to give it over to Latika right now. A lot to cover there. I've also included my LinkedIn profile in the chat. Do reach out if you have any other questions. Latika, I'm going to give it over to you, and then I'm going to come back to talk about our exclusive offer after the live demo is done.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Miles, for the wonderful presentation. And hello, everyone. My name is Latika, and I'm calling live from Vancouver. So without wasting time, I just have 10 minutes to cover a demo today. I will be getting under the hood. And now let's take a look at the experience of using Bullfish ID from both administrator's perspective, whether you're an MSP or an IT team member, or from the end user perspective. So right now we are on Bullfish ID dashboard, where you can keep track of your phishing and training campaigns for each user or department through this page. So you can clearly see how many campaigns were completed, how many were in progress, and how many were scheduled. Moving on, the first thing you would want to do when you log into Bullfish is to create a client account. Now, that is very easy because you have a small button on the desktop to add SMBs, small business organizations. The next thing you would wonder is that you want to import targets, and we provide different ways to import targets to Bullfish. The first step would be a manual way. You can either add individual targets to Bullfish by clicking on this pretty button on the rightmost corner of the screen, or you can import a CSV file with first name, last name, email, and position. If you want automation, we also have directory sync available. So you can establish a sync. So here, if I click on directory sync, you would select your organization, and then you would choose whether you want to establish this integration with Azure, Google, or Pathly. Now, Pathly is our internal product with which we are integrated with. But let me give you a quick glimpse of how the import happens and how easy it is on this page. So as you can see, importing groups and targets can happen with a few easy steps. After your integration is established, all you have to do is select the groups that you want to pull from your Bullfish or could be Google, and if you want to do that, even import all targets from your AD to Bullfish with this step, where you just have to enter the name of your group, click on the sync button, and all groups or targets would be imported to Bullfish. And you can see the history of that on the same page as well. Like when did this last sync happen? When, how many users were added last time, or how many were removed? And that's how you add targets to Bullfish. Moving on, Bullfish ID comprises of two modules. The first one is phishing simulation, where you conduct phishing campaigns. And I would click on this phishing kits button, where you can see that we have pre-made phishing simulation kits, which let you get phishing campaigns up and running within minutes. Last year, just to share some numbers, total number of clicks on Bullfish ID were 130,000. Like, these many people clicked on phishing emails last year. Now, I would like to show you a glimpse of that as well. So before coming to this session, I assigned myself a few phishing kits to myself. So let's have a look at them. Now, this one is an email from FedEx, which is telling me that my package is on the way. We have recently created one for Dropbox as well. We're constantly updating our repository, adding more and more content. The next one is from Airbnb, which is inviting me for 50% discount. If I click on the login button, it would take me to the login page, and user might enter their credentials. Now, we are not saving credentials at all. The moment you click on the continue button, everything would be discarded. And then finally, it would take you to the test page, where you can see that it was just a test and it was not a real phishing email, and a video which is going to educate your end users that they should not be clicking on these emails and the things that they can do to identify a real phishing email. Now let me show you how easy it is to create a phishing campaign in Bullfish ID. So from left navigation panel, I clicked on create phishing campaign. I will give a name to my campaign. You can add a description if you want. It's optional. Good. Is whether you want to send all emails to your end users at once, or you want to spread it in 3 days, 5 days, and 7 days. If you choose the 7 days option, emails would be sent on different days and different times to your end users randomly. You can even choose the time, the date and time when the campaign should start. Now here, the beauty of this page is you can create this campaign for multiple organizations at once with a few easy clicks. So As you can see, organizations were selected by you. Time zone is auto-selected based on my location, which is Vancouver. You can always change that if you would like. And then the groups, you would select which groups would be assigned to this training group. If I want to remove something, I can easily do that. I'll click on the next button. And then the frequency. You can create phishing kits for the whole year. So the automation is available. You can choose to create phishing campaign for one-time frequency, weekly, bi-weekly, or you can even create something for the whole year, right, for quarterly campaigns. We have kits available in several languages, as you can see in this drop-down here. And then the next step for you would be to simply click and drop the kits that you would like to assign to your end users. If you want to see a glimpse of that, you can click on this I button, and then it would show you how the phishing kit is going to look like. Now, this is what I demonstrated in my email inbox as well. And then you would simply click on the next button, which would take you to the main page. You can review your campaign. You can make sure all details are correct. If you want to make any edits, you can click on the pencil button, which would take you back to the edit page. After clicking on the confirm button, the campaign would be created. And now you are on the second option, view all campaigns page, where you can see all the campaigns that you have created so far. How many campaigns did you create? How many emails were opened? You can even select the organization. Like I have many clients available here for this organization. So I can pick and choose the data I want to see for a particular account. Now, if I click on the campaign that I assigned to myself, why not look at it? So on this page, I'm on detailed campaign page, where you can see which users received the email, their email address, the status, whether they sent the email. Like we sent the email, but they never clicked on that. So it is clearly visible here, which is good. If somebody opened it or submitted credentials, it would be available as well, along with the IP addresses. So if somebody comes back to you and say that they didn't do it, you can track the email address, the browser from which they took this action with a few easy steps. Moving forward, now let's talk about our training and awareness campaign. Similar to phishing modules, you can create the training campaigns with a few easy steps. In terms of training courses, let's move on to the next step. We have more than 88 easy-to-understand, short, and visually engaging training videos with subtitles in 8 languages. Currently, we are supporting the voiceover in Spanish, French, Portuguese, and English voiceover, which is available in here. So let me give you a glimpse of one of the training emails. So this is how a video is going to look for end users. This is the final page. However, for the testing purposes, I did assign a training to myself to show everybody how it would look. So when you would create a training campaign, you can select a sending profile. Sending profile is the email from which emails are being sent. Now, if I'm working for Kaseya, maybe I would not open an email which is coming from an unknown domain. So the good news here is you can configure your own company's domain to send training campaigns. Even you can use the same. You can purchase a new domain, configure that, and use that for phishing campaigns as well. It's a choice of yours. The email invitation that you're looking at, that can be customized as well. Here you can see that I have used ID agent domain to configure my email invitation. The text in this invitation can be edited as well. Now, there are 2 ways users can log into Bullfish. It could either be a passwordless login for end users or traditional login where you enter username and password. For my organization, I have configured passwordless login. So I received a link in my inbox, and here I am. This is how Bullfish ID is going to look for end users. All the courses which are open and assigned to me are available on the top with assigned and expired date. The completed ones are on the bottom. The expired ones are the ones that I never completed or worked on. If I click on the start course, it would take me to this page where I can complete my video, look at my video, and then finish and then start the quiz. Quiz comprises of minimum 6 questions. They're true and false. You can take the quiz, take the test, and then the result would be available on the final page. Now, the beauty of this is, if I come back to Bullfish, there are a lot of modifications you can do to your training portal. Now, let's take a look at that. So you can white label the domain for training portal as well. As you can see, when I logged in to Bullfish, it says product.bpidkia.com. Now, you can name it. You can pick any name that you want and configure it the way you want. So that functionality is also available. Moving forward, our training portal is available in 2 different languages, English and French. You can upload your company logo very easily. You can co-brand your MSP logo and even add the SMB logo. Both can be added to this training portal, which is currently visible on this page on the top left corner of the screen. This is the one that I picked. If I logged out and you picked a traditional login method, it would ask you to enter your email ID and password. And this is where your logo would be displayed. Coming back to the training portal, let's look at course settings. So you can set a scoring criteria for the training campaigns you're conducting for your end users. So it could be, for example, 80%, like somebody has to score 80% to pass a test. You can save those changes. And then how many times a user can attempt a training course. You can set a limit to that as well. It could be unlimited as well. At the same time, moving forward, let's talk about reports. So we have several reports available in Bullfish ID, but the one I'm going to highlight today is our monthly and quarterly reports. So you come to this page, you simply select your organization, and you can choose to download your monthly or quarterly reports on this page with a few easy steps. I'll click on the download button and the report will be downloaded. But you do not have to wait for this to be available. What you can do is you can go to the automate report page and you can automate your monthly and quarterly business reports. You can choose the sending profile of your own choice. So if you have customized your company's domain, you can create a profile called automatedreports@kaseya.com for me, for example, and then you can enter the email addresses of your recipients who are going to receive these automated reports, and you can go on from there. Let's say people who are receiving the reports, they're no longer working with the organization. We also have a history page. You can always come here and you can always update the automation that you have created for your end users. That's there. Now, if I click on the settings tab, we have email template section available. So all content that we have available in Bullfish, as Mike mentioned, can be edited, can be customized. So all you have to do is come to this page, click on this new template option, and you can start with a pre-existing template, which is the beauty of it. You can pick and choose the template that you like. If you want to take a glimpse of that before you want to start working on that, you can do that as well. You would simply select the template, click on apply, and editing a template is as easy as you're looking at. So I just started editing the content in my template. I can add my logos, and you can go on from there and create your custom phishing kits if you want. You can do the same for training courses as well. If you want, if you have internal courses available, you can come to this page and upload those courses in Bullfish ID itself, and then you can use the same and assign them to your end users. Or if you're using Vimeo, all you have to do is upload your videos to Vimeo, with which we have a very active integration, and you can add a link to that Vimeo video and you're good to go. From there on, you can start conducting your training courses. In near future, just a good point to share, we are also going to integrate with YouTube as well. So if you have a lot of content available on your active channels, you would be available to link that with Bullfish as well. And in addition to that, another point I would like to share before I wrap up is tutorials. So let's say you have a lot of turnaround in the team. Somebody new joined your team and you do not have any bandwidth to train your new employee to conduct these campaigns or manage these accounts. We have a section called tutorials as well, where we are adding more and more videos to train you on the product itself. For example, if you want a certain SMB organization to manage their own content and campaigns, you can create a read-only or an admin level user access for them so that they can log into Bullfish. They will have access to their own account and your clients can manage their own campaigns. Videos, tutorials on how to use features in Bullfish are available in this section, and it would make you, it will make your team players more independent, basically. And that's a wrap from my side. Thank you so much for joining everybody today and for your time and attention. Mike, I'm handing over the text to you.
Great. Thank you so much. And we do have an exclusive offer, 25% off Bullfish ID security awareness training and phishing simulation for once again, phishing was the #1 vector used by cyber criminals for the 3rd straight year. So this is something that's affecting everyone in every business, and we want to give you a discount there. If you haven't added me up yet, please do. There's my email. There's my information. Just scan the QR code there, and you're off to be connected with me. Now we got a couple questions, I believe, and I'll pass it back to the team.
All right. Thank you so much, Miles.
Of course.
Outstanding presentation. Really enjoyed it. So before we get to the questions, it's time for another poll question. So you heard from that presentation about what ID Agent offers. So tell us, in the meantime, what other information you'd like to get from them. And remember also to download the ID Agent PDF that's in the handout section of your console. Some really valuable information in that. So, so now let's dive in. We have time for a couple of questions here. And the first one that I wanted to ask for you and Latika is from Arlene. And Arlene wants to know that her issue with security training like this is that their nonprofit is small, and the expense of security training is usually high. I mean, that's a concern that probably a lot of people have. You know, what is your response to that?
Sure. Yeah, I can take that one. Well, first of all, it's a really relevant question because 25% of charities this past year had some type of cyber attack against them. So sadly, we're at the stage now where cyber criminals are hitting everybody. They're hitting schools, they're hitting hospitals, and now they're actually hitting charities, which, you know, really makes me upset, but that's just the way of our world now. Security awareness training can be pricey, but you know what's worse? Losing, 2 weeks of downtime and having to pay a ransom. So that's the way I kind of see it. It's like, this is the thing that will help your business stay afloat or your charity stay afloat. So it's going to be something that people have to find a budget for, because if they don't, they're going to have to deal with the sad state of affairs of a cyber attack, sadly.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the pay now or pay a lot more later, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think they say,
for sure.
I think the numbers we found is about people will spend about 14 times more their average budget after a cyber attack. And that's really scary to think that people don't want to pay in advance. And then when they get hit by an attack,
Right.
They're willing to pay whatever they have to.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay. We have time for one more question. This one is from Jeffrey, and this is for Bullfish ID. Can you use legitimate phishing emails as a simulated phishing template? Whichever one of you wants to take that one.
Latika, did you want to take that one?
Yeah. So our phishing email templates can be edited. Of course, you can pick any phishing email that we have in place. You can edit that, modify that, and basically you can customize that for your end users, because they might, as I mentioned, they might open an email only if they see their company logo on that or the content that they usually interact with. So yes, that's available.
Great. Good to hear. Yeah, such an important topic. What's more important these days, actually, than securing your human resources against the bad guys who are just proliferating out there? I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there right now, but I wanted to thank you again, Miles and Latika, for a fantastic presentation, and I love the demo. So let's move along. We've got another presentation ready to go in the hopper, but before we do that, it's time to give away our first $300 Amazon gift card. And the winner of that gift card is Brendan Wells from Michigan. Congrats, Brendan. You'll be hearing from us with information on how to get your gift card. Okay. So moving along here, it is now time for Census to join us for the next presentation. And presenting today is Dan Whitford, a solutions engineer. Dan, you are up. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Whitford, a senior solutions engineer with Census. And I'm excited to share what we're doing here at Census and how we can help improve your data security for your organization. Our overview today will cover data security challenges in a growing attack surface, current tools you have today and where the gaps may exist, who is Census and how do we help, and to wrap it up, a demo of the Census Exposure Management Platform. So let's get started. The way companies behave with respect to the internet has completely changed. There's more sensitive data, more dependencies to critical parts of the business, and everything comes at us in higher volumes and at faster paces. We aren't protecting ourselves the way we need to. Policies and program philosophies don't always match the available technology, but the attackers we are defending ourselves against are rapidly evolving and up to speed. Visibility of your entire attack surface, seen from the attacker's perspective, is a fundamental piece of any security program today. Attack surfaces have grown beyond the scope of traditional security tools and practices. We can see some of the growth and explosion here from some of these numbers that we've provided, and where Gartner and IDC estimate cloud spend to continue to go. And the point is, organizations do not know what they own or what they need to protect anymore. IT doesn't own everything anymore. The entire organization can expand the attack surface. So we get more exposures, more alerts, less time, and less resources as a result of this. Security teams are already outnumbered. Prioritization is a difficult task now. Simple human error is creating a majority of the problems. And these should be easy to address if we know about them. This is just kind of a look at existing tools today, some of them responsible for giving you guys visibility, but it's not comprehensive enough and can often be out of date or inaccurate, which means critical vulnerabilities or risks are often learned about when an incident occurs. So for the left-hand side of this, the vendor risk management or security rating vendors, they're providing risk scores and posture assessments based on information they're collecting and providing to you. But they also have limited visibility or no visibility into supplier cloud configurations. Vulnerability management, traditionally scanning known resources that it's fed. It doesn't have visibility into shadow cloud. Digital risk protection, protecting the brand and impersonation. There's no visibility here either into unknown internet assets. And then finally, cloud security posture management. Great at giving visibility of cloud assets and vulnerabilities, but they only, again, protect known cloud accounts. And so we need to be able to address the unknown and protect what we can't see. Think about the current tools you use and ask yourself if you have answers to these questions. How long will it take my team to find everything we own exposed on the internet? How many cloud providers is my company using today? How quickly can we identify misconfigured or vulnerable internet-facing assets? And most importantly, what critical exposures can everyone outside of my organization see? If we think about these questions, these are just some of the questions that are critical in understanding areas we can improve our data security practices. Census is the one place to understand everything on the internet. We help you answer these questions with accurate and up-to-date information. Census was founded by the creators of ZMAP. We invented internet-wide scanning and have continued to invest and innovate using our knowledge of the internet and cloud to help security teams protect their organizations. We provide an attacker-centric view of all internet and cloud assets, and we are the best at finding the exposures attackers will exploit. We know the internet and cloud better than anyone and are trusted by large organizations, federal and government agencies to provide knowledge and expertise about internet risks. What do? So we've built the industry-leading global scanning infrastructure that serves as the foundation for everything we do. We scan the entire IPv4 space and cloud providers every single day and have been doing it for the last 5 years. What this means is we see 63% more services than our nearest competitor. And we have the largest certificate database in the world, standing at over 8 billion and growing daily. With this accurate and up-to-date data, we're helping every part of the security program with our census exposure management and census search products that you can see here on the right. I know what you're thinking. Every vendor says we have the best data, but this time I can prove it. What we're looking at here is a recent independent study from Gray Noise. Looking at internet scanning vendors, they found Census is providing more coverage of ports and services than anyone else based on that thick line you see at the top. And not only do we have the most comprehensive coverage, we also detect new hosts very quickly. This is just a small sample of their findings and all the vendors that they were able to reveal as part of their reporting. So I've included a handout for you all to review and take with you. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us for any answers. Now that you know who Census is and how we can help with best practices for securing your data, I want to share more detail about Census exposure management and why this helps with your best practices for data security. Census exposure management, one of the products we offer, discovers, inventories, and monitors your entire internet exposure, not monthly, not weekly, but daily. The external attack surface is assessed for risks, and each is prioritized by what is important to you. And this is important because risk tolerance across different organizations aren't the same. So you can customize them to meet the risk tolerance of your organization. Providing an outside-in view or attacker's perspective of each asset and exposure daily gives your organization more visibility and context, so you can manage and communicate your cybersecurity posture proactively and prevent breaches. You also have complete control of the data in the attack surface, how Census found it, the ability to add and remove assets if necessary. Remember, we know more about the internet and cloud than anyone else, and this is what enables us to discover more assets with fewer false positives. So Census enables defenders to save time, address critical issues faster, and gain visibility of all your internet assets so that you can better protect the organization and its data. Let's take a live look at the Census exposure management product. Here we are in the Census exposure management product in our demo environment called Papertown. And one of the use cases we didn't quite cover yet was mergers and acquisitions or subsidiary security management. Those are things that we can logically separate from the attack surface if they're managed by different teams across different subsidiaries in the company. We can split those out so that they have their own view of assets that they manage. But today we're going to look at Papertown as an organization. We're here at the dashboard. And before we start to explore the dashboard, where I want to start first is how did we build the attack surface? This is a critical component to ensuring that the attack surface is as complete as possible and accurate. So what happens here is first we provide Census with seed data. And seed data starts with assets a customer knows about or high confidence assets automatically found by Census. And these include IPs, domains, CIDRs, and ASNs. From here, a variety of other resources are checked for relationships with known assets, building out a complete view. Examples of other data resources used to build this view include hosts with CIDRs, with insiders, the subdomains from domains, and the certificates on hosts from our scan data. And then from all of this data, we can start to understand and make inferences about other assets in our internet data set that belong to your organization. And it doesn't stop there. In the event that you need to make changes to this data, you can easily do so by selecting the data here and removing it. In addition to the manual data you can add, Census also automatically discovers initial seed data. And the way we do this is through a partnership with Crunchbase, where we can look at Crunchbase organizations, type those in here, and then it'll go out and look at various WHOIS records, registrant information to pull together list of subsidiaries, registrant information, the org, and emails for you to review. This is additional seed data that Census finds on its own through your guidance and can help build a more complete attack surface for your team. Now that we know how Census is getting its data, how you guys can control the input of it, what happens next is attribution runs, pulling in data from our own data sources and other third-party data sources to help enrich with additional information. And this happens daily. So now we talked about previously that the attack surface is updated daily. And this is critical because cloud has changed the way organizations need to prevent and secure things in the cloud. So looking at the dashboard here, if we needed a better view of our cloud inventory, we've categorized it. So now we can start understanding what is the makeup of our attack surface. And looking at the cloud infrastructure here, we can already see we're in Amazon Web Services. We've got some assets in Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and then other cloud providers. And this is where things start to get interesting. As an organization, you may think we heavily use AWS or Azure. Maybe we're not in GCP. And a lot of organizations are surprised to find out that their footprint extends outside of those big 3 cloud environments. So even into DigitalOcean, Tencent, or Alibaba. And from here, this is where we get the visibility to enable you as a defender or a red team to understand the security posture of the organization and help those teams remediate these vulnerabilities. I'm going to clear that cloud filter there for a minute, and we're going to look at these assets. The assets in this attack surface consist of IP addresses, domains, web entities, storage buckets, certificates, and software. These are all critical components of external facing resources that we need to know about and be able to secure. Once we've discovered all of those things, typically the first thing organizations want to know is where am I most vulnerable, right? Thinking back to those questions we talked about earlier. This is where Census exposure management really helps prioritize your risk efforts and gives the teams the information they need to view them. So if we jump over, moving from the initial dashboard and inventory to the risks, we can start to see already, I've got some high severity risks in the environment, medium and low. And earlier we talked about some of these risks, we categorize them by default automatically based on the impact, likelihood, and exploitability. But again, your organization may have a different risk tolerance for different types of things that need to be exposed for whatever purposes they serve. And that's where we can start to customize various risk severities on an asset level. In this case, we could change RDP. Maybe this is supposed to be exposed. It's properly secured with other mitigating controls like MFA, maybe restricted access through some other security tools. And we can change the risk severity of this to low, or we could even accept that risk, provide a business reason as to why, and then submit it. And then Census won't alert us about that specific host risk, but it'll still be logged and documented. If we need more detail, we can drill into this specific host with RDP and get more risk context. So here we can quickly see RDP service is exposed on TCP port 3389, and it's been open for 10 days. Now, if this were something that were critical and we needed the team to remediate right away, and we want to verify that, we could simply rescan the host on demand. Below that, the team will get additional remediation recommendations and additional context to help them as they explore and investigate this and work on remediation. They also have the ability to integrate with ticketing systems. So now as you think of pushing this data downstream, making it more operationalized for some of the teams and responsible asset owners, they can do that from within the user interface here. We can also apply tags. So as you see here, tags added currently include investigate and unknown owner. You can add as many tags as you want to an asset, and then that makes it easier for users to search and filter on those. So from looking at a risk on a host, we can also look at the host summary. And this is where a lot of information is helpful for people doing investigations, understanding recent host activity, the history of that host, what's changed on it, was a port or a service added or removed, same with the certificate. And then another important asset feature here too is really understanding the discovery path. This is where Census tells you how it discovered the asset. In this case, this IP address was found in a DNS resolution chain from this domain. And this is the root seed domain that was brought into the attack surface via one of our cloud connectors. And that's one thing we didn't touch on. We have cloud connectors into AWS, Azure, and GCP. And that just gives the organization more visibility into their known cloud accounts to add those into Census for those external assets so that we can monitor and discover anything else off of those as well. Included will be some location information, and below that, a preview of the protocols and ports exposed on the host, and all of that scan data. So we provide all that rich scan data as it was scanned from Census, as some of this information can be used to look at the attack surface in various different ways to see if there's correlation between other hosts or other information that might be relevant there. And then finally at the bottom here, this host has a certificate on it. We can see that it's self-signed, but still valid. Jumping back to the dashboard, one important area I want to focus on too is really this concept of web entities. Cloud has really changed the way we identify and continuously monitor applications, and we need to be able to easily manage and understand cloud risks. Applications are distributed across a changing number of IPs, and so looking at just specific host level information or IPs isn't enough anymore. So what we've created is a concept called web entities, and this is a named based host on a port. And so as you can see here, we have a couple different DNS names with different ports. These specific web assets can be hosted across multiple physical instances, right? This is where content delivery networks come into play. Your organization doesn't actually manage the security of those. You're responsible for securing that specific web entity. Web entities can include named websites. They could be Prometheus endpoints, Kubernetes, etc. And investigating these is very similar to the way we investigate a physical host. We come in here, we get a nice summary page of the web entity, town square papertown.cloud. We can see it's got one low risk here based on this green indicator. And then we get some summary information here as well. What URI was in the scan, and then what web entity instance is hosting this content. So we can see here, this is not a CDN. This is an instance in Amazon running Nginx. And we can get a little bit more information here on the risks, any TLS information, TLS 1.3, and any other relevant DNS information. And then in the same way we looked at a host risk, we can look at a web entity risk in this way as well, identifying that it's got missing common security headers. It'll also have a discovery path, so we can share how it was discovered and attributed to the organization. And then we can also look at the scan data for the web entity. And then we can even pivot off of this data to see what else is in our environment. So if I wanted to see what else is in AWS Cloud, we can quickly pivot over there. It creates a simple query, searches our inventory, and then brings us the results so we can do deeper investigation. We can also share related web entities, so another name on a different port, and then we can add some comments if necessary as well. So this is a quick overview of census exposure management. And if you want to take it a little bit further, we can certainly work with you one-on-one and your team to dive a little bit deeper into a demonstration of maybe your own attack surface and evaluate what the security posture of that looks like. If you'd like to learn more or work with us to evaluate your external attack surface, just feel free to scan the code and request a demo. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Great presentation. And so with that, it's time for another poll. We want to know what additional information you'd like to get from Census. So let us know. They are ready and waiting to hear from you to answer any inquiries you have. Census also has a PDF that's available in the handout section. So you should take advantage of that, download it, and look it over. In the meantime, Dan is standing by and he is ready to dive into some questions. So, Dan, we've had some really good ones come in. Let's go over the first one here. So Christopher wants to know, how does census exposure management help organizations comply with data privacy regulations, particularly when it comes to workers who may be accessing sensitive data from different locations and devices? Yeah, this remote piece is really important.
Yeah, that's a great question. And the way we do that, so data privacy, obviously there's a lot of sensitive data when it comes to who's connecting to what is a personal device and their IP, personal information that we need to abide by. The one thing though with Census is we are already collecting a bunch of public information. So for us, there's really no crossing data privacy boundaries in that regard. And then for the organization, we're just helping them get visibility of their public IPs and assets that they own. Now that could include remote workers, endpoints as well, if the company manages those and they need to have visibility of those.
Great. All right, next up, how does Census help with newly discovered vulnerabilities?
Yeah, that's a good point. So one thing we didn't touch on is Census has what's called rapid response. And speed and accuracy are very critical for protecting against continuously evolving threats. So what we do with Census, with all the internet data we have, we can quickly fingerprint and prioritize adding emergency vulnerabilities into the Census exposure management platform within 24 hours of a vulnerability disclosure. And this helps our customers quickly identify and remediate impacted internet assets before they become a problem.
Outstanding, especially with the increase in zero-day attacks and things like that. I think we have time for one more question today, Dan. And
sure.
This one is, what's unique about Census than the other vendors in this space? Obviously, you're not the only one who offers this. How do you differentiate what Census's exposure management tools do?
Yeah, great question. So to really sum this up, you can't rely on good enough data to defend your organization from today's threats. And the foundation of Census and our exposure management platform is our data. We're scanning the internet daily. We know more about the internet in the cloud than anybody else. And that gives us the ability to create the most accurate and up-to-date information about assets on the internet daily. So we can provide that more coverage, context, and connections about those internet assets than anyone else, and we're happy to prove it.
Outstanding. Dan, I think we need to wrap this up now. We're out of time, but I want to thank you so much for preparing this presentation. Really informative and really good stuff and relevant for today.
Great. Thanks for hosting me.
Absolutely. Okay. Moving on, before we get to our next presentation, we need to give away another $300 Amazon gift card. The winner of this latest Amazon gift card is Peter Ong from Pennsylvania. Congratulations, Peter, and you will be hearing from us soon with the relevant information. So, moving along, we have got our final presentation of the day, and this is from Rubrik. Rubik has got Natasha Loeffler-Little on the line, and she is ready to step up to the plate. Natasha, you are go for launch, as Elon Musk might say. Let's do this.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Natasha Loeffler-Little, and I'm a principal product manager here at Rubrik. And I'm super excited to be here today to talk to you about best practices for maximizing your data security. And I want to kick this off by saying, it really does seem like the whole world has this concept of backups well understood. But what most organizations are struggling with is how to recover from a cyber attack, and specifically the destructive type that goes after data. Something that we hear about in the news is that businesses are under attack daily. And the most concerning is when they're going after the data, because then they know they've got you, right? They go through all the layers, get to your crown jewels, and this is really disruptive. But what's even more concerning, and we know that the worst of this, is when they go after your data and they're also getting your backups. And so to tee this off, one of the most important questions we need to ask is your data an easy target? All right, so when we're teeing up not just the fact that there are attacks, we have to really have an understanding of whether you have on-premises or a cloud environment or a hybrid environment. Cyber attacks are on the rise, and we need to have a better understanding as organizations if your systems, processes, and your teams are set up and ready in such a way that if an adversary were to get behind your firewall, is the data and is your business still protected? And so the first thing I want to do as we're asking some of these basic questions is to highlight the first best practice of asking the right questions, right? And what are the right questions? Well, I'm just going to give you a few of them to start with. And the spirit of what I'm going to suggest here really goes back to the fact that I'm going to say backup does not mean the same thing as cyber recovery. I would say backup and recovery was easy in a disaster situation. Someone called, something went down, and you just had to recover it. In cyber recovery, you don't know what it was that has to be restored, where or how far back the bad actor went. And just piecing together what was affected is incredibly time consuming. So one of the first questions you need to be able to ask is, what exactly do I need to recover? Or if you're doing this in a preparatory type of way or proactive way, is could I actually discover and get that information quickly and easily? The second thing is you have to know if sensitive data was impacted. And that was never a concern for a disaster scenario where you just had pure backup. If it's personally identifiable information or PII, or it's patient data or something impacted by GDPR, that's part of the attack. There are entities that have to be notified for compliance reasons. So you need to be asking yourself, can I tell if sensitive data was in scope if I had an attack? And you also never had to worry in a disaster scenario about malware. So in cyber recovery, the worst thing that could happen is that you think you're in the clear and you've restored everything. You think you're back online, but what you actually happen to have done is reinstalled the malware. And that would start the whole cycle all over again. So the third question that I'm going to encourage you to have in your toolkit as you are looking at best practices is, how do you ensure that you don't actually restore the malware? And the other thing I'm going to add here is that you're going to want to have a pool of questions ready, because your board and your C-suite are asking these questions too. They're going to be looking at, are we good with cyber attacks and being able to do cyber recovery? Can we prove it? How long will it take? These are really important questions that we need to be asking. So in this first best practice, starting to ask those questions early, and also I'll add often. And the second thing you want to do is really look at making time a priority. When a breach happens, you're going to have to ask a series of questions across multiple teams. Now, we just covered a few that in peacetime, I'm not going to say easy, but the stakes are lower. If a breach happens, the business begins boiling, and the pressure to be up and running again is so intense that actually most companies give in and pay the ransom purely due to time. Forrester estimates that on average, it takes about 7.3 days to recover, and many organizations give up after about 2 or 3 days of waiting because they lose faith in their ability to do the recovery and they opt to pay the ransom. And what we can see here as we continue to dive into cyber attacks and ransomware attacks is that a model for data security that works is one that enables you to respond with resilience and speed so you don't pay the ransom. So while hackers are waiting for human errors, zero-day breaches, or other vulnerabilities, all of which will inevitably happen, there's a solution to secure against threats and also be able to recover quickly when you're attacked. So Rubrik is built on 3 pillars. We look at data resilience, data observability, and data remediation. Resilience is having that copy of data that's safeguarded from an adversary. So we go back to the original piece that we started with here today. We don't want them to get access to your data, and we definitely don't want them to have access to your backups. The second piece is what we call observability. And these are insights that we can glean by understanding how data has changed over time. And that data can really tell us a story. And then the remediation piece is not just recovery, but cyber recovery. And this is important. It's this idea of taking into consideration the entire cyber event. Right? And we really see these 3 together as critical. And you can make sure that you have the backup secured, you have the intelligence on what to recover, and you have a system in place to actually do the recovery. And the technology that you select as part of your plan should be thinking about how your teams are working faster together, right? I love the story of Payet with Rubrik. They were prepared before an attack ever happened. They had a good plan and had been using Rubrik on top of, in this case, their Microsoft 365 and Windows Server investments for backup. And when an attack happened, they were able to recover so quickly that the hacker didn't even have time to leave a ransomware note. That's how simple you want things to be. That's how timely you want things to be. Now, the other thing that I'll say about time is looking at the usability of the tools that you're investing in. With Rubrik in particular, you have a single pane of glass across your environments to manage the solution with a very intuitive and easy to use interface. Super critical for having just one place to log in when things happen, so you know that simplicity of that plan that you can react, and that your teams and those folks who are there in the war room to actually go deal with this are able to quickly and easily do that. Right? So equally important to have the system in place, to have a plan in place, and something that your teams feel comfortable to use quickly. Now, the third best practice I'm going to talk about is that you really want to have a strong technological foundation. Right? And there are really 2 elements that we want to continue to emphasize in our mission here at Rubrik to help you secure your business with respect to data security. The first is that, it's equally important to secure your data against the threats and also having the resilience to recover quickly when attacked. So the protection that Rubrik Security Cloud offers begins with a strong foundation to secure your data from any insider threats or ransomware with air-gapped, immutable, and access-controlled backups. And that foundation includes intelligent data lock, retention lock, access control at every level, logical air-gapping, encryption everywhere, and it is immutable by design. And so this first piece of thinking about protecting your data with the right foundation is this best practice that you got to look at the features and the technology that's going to be there to really support setting you up for security, for observability, and also to actually go forward and be able to remediate without reinfecting, getting the right things back online, and that your business can be up and running as soon as possible after an attack. Now, the fourth best practice is to be proactive, be ready, right? And I'll talk about this specifically because reinfection is a big problem, and the majority of companies that suffer an attack have a high chance of a reattack. And there's a few ideas of how this happened. First of is they know when an attack started, but they don't actually know before that how long something was dormant. So this is an intelligence problem. Right? And this is something that Rubrik specifically looks at with that data observability, with letting that data tell us a story about what else might be happening that could not have been caught by some other system, but we can detect it in the backups. And the second thing is that they might not have the capability to recover into a clean environment to actually do the testing. So there are a few things that we think are really important. One is set yourself up with systems and a plan that ensure that all components can be accessed in the event of a disaster. You would be looking for a way for files to be saved in a consistently available location and have a way to do that so you can restore only the last known clean copy. Right. And the second thing is these are living plans. So make this an ongoing exercise to review. This is more process, but built on top of tools that you can use and trust for your recovery plan. So use reports that are informing you of what is and is not covered. Involve multiple teams to review the information, test it regularly, do tabletop exercises, don't stop. Don't stop, don't stop, just keep going. This is not a one and done type event, right? So keep practicing with your recovery plan to make sure things are nice and tight and in that proactive, again, peaceful time when you can make better decisions and set yourself up for success. The final best practice that I'm going to highlight is more of a direct cost maximizing best practice, and that's to use your cloud marketplace. So if you have a cloud consumption agreement, you can buy Rubrik on that respective marketplace that you're subscribed to with one of our partners and apply it to your consumption agreement. So whether that's Microsoft Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud, you can find Rubrik on all three of those and use that again for your specific consumption agreement. That has some other benefits as well that indirectly impact costs, such as easier procurement, also being able to just take care of that in a more timely manner. So there's some real interesting benefits there that I encourage you to make sure you're taking advantage of. You know, Rubrik has been trusted by over 5,000 customers with great success, and I'm super appreciative of everyone's time and attention as we've gone over these 5 best practices for maximizing your data security. I'm looking forward to the questions that are going to be asked, and I'm going to dive right into those in. Okay, our first question is, how should we be thinking about data security in 2023? Okay, historically, you know, security really meant physical and perimeter security of like servers, networks, and the like. And that's important for natural disasters and that pre-2020 rise in ransomware attacks. But it's specifically the rise of cybercrimes with bad actors who are aiming to target the data that has brought data security to be so central to what we need to pay attention to. So while we could gloss over and discuss security, really the art of and the act of focusing specifically on data security means we're drawing attention to what is at the heart of running your business and asking how you're protecting it, right? Good question. Here's another one. Why is a single pane of glass an important feature to consider as we look at our data security strategy? Okay, you know, there's a couple things that I highlighted earlier. It does help streamline putting everything into one place, especially for those of you who have very complex environments for international footprints, on-prem and cloud. These types of things can be very, very difficult. And again, when we go back to this heart of one of our best practices being having the right foundation technologically and also looking at a solution that gives you answers in the right time. Having a single pane of glass is one way in which you can solve that with technology, where the ability to do the backup and secure the backup and then be able to do the remediation in one place across your entire system, super important. I'll also add that the experts that I've worked with that have spent years implementing data security solutions within teams always highlight that there are humans who have to actually manage these solutions. So the easier we make it for them, you know, in this case, reducing logins and systems they have to learn, the less likely there are mistakes or delays. So there are a lot of cost benefits by streamlining your system investments and other things that make it just more interesting and simple for the business. But at the heart of it, I would also highlight that making this easier for the users themselves is one of the main reasons. I would say that also motivates Rubrik to create such beautiful and easily usable products. Great question. Okay, third one. What is the connection between data security and backups? Big one. All right, so I'm going to keep this concise. I'll go back and reference the history of using backups was really for disaster recovery. And in a cyber attack where your data is the primary target, you now have to consider things like malware, when an attack happened, where it happened. Backups, which are managed in such a way that are air-gapped and immutable, like what Rubrik does, protect your data and enable you to get back online from disaster or cyber attacks. So, thinking about backups, not just to get things back online after a disaster, but looking at this heart of backups are not the same as cyber recovery, and really having to look at backups as a way, the means to help us glean insights about the story the data can tell us and facilitate, clean backups with the right level of granularity in the right time. That's where I'm going to leave that question. We could probably keep going. Those seem to be all of the questions. Again, I appreciate everyone's time and I thank you.
And thank you, Natasha. Always like to hear from Rubrik what they are doing as one of the leading vendors in this space. Really nice to see what's going on. So, got another poll. We want to know what additional information you'd like now from Rubrik. You've heard a lot about their solution today. If you'd like to dive further in, they'd love to talk to you about anything and everything you've seen today. Rubrik also has a PDF in the handout section to download, as do the other vendors. So please take advantage of that handout section in the few minutes that we have left. And it is now time to give away our final $300 Amazon gift card. One last reminder that you do have to attend the entire event to be eligible to win. And we are giving away that final gift card to Scott Reeves from Texas. Congratulations, Scott, and we will be in touch to get you your card. All right. So if you were watching the event today and thinking that one of these presentations was really effective and might be a great way for your company to present its own solutions, we'd love to hear from you. We've got tons of events and can find a perfect one for you or custom make one for you. Contact us at connect@actualtechmedia.com for more information. We hope you enjoyed today's event. As they say on infomercials though, but wait, there's more. We have a megacast tomorrow about streamlining, securing, and protecting cloud, IT, and business operations. Featured vendors on that include Rubrik, who we just heard from, Sequence, Gigamon, and Palo Alto. It starts tomorrow at noon Eastern Time, which is 9 a.m. Pacific Time, of course. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank ID Agent, Census, and Rubrik for putting together such great presentations and informing us about how to stay secure with the data that we have that is going here and there and everywhere. I'd just like to thank all of you for attending today's EcoCast. You're the reason we do this, and thanks for all of your great questions. That concludes today's event. Have a great rest of your day.